Wow, today really got away from me, buddy. I looked up and all of a sudden it was 5 o'clock, and here we are, Seth and Sean Sports. I don't know. It's a dreary, I will say, slow sports week when a soccer team becomes the biggest story in the league in sports.
A soccer team?
Well, I'll say a soccer team that's not even playing right now. Let's put it that way, right? So
you talking about Messi going into Miami?
I'm talking about Messi going to Miami. He's
going to Miami?
He's taking his talents to South Beach.
He is taking his talents to South Beach.
Now, you and I discussed this when it was first being, I guess, advertised. And it's a good segue into the rest of our show, which is where are we going to be in 5 years, 3 to 5 years, for all of these different sports and all these different teams, and who really has the wherewithal to move forward, who are going to be the dynasties in the next 3 to 5 years. And we may have Gary A. join the show later. Not sure on that at this point. But Seth, Messi joins Miami, very similar to Beckham joining the LA Galaxy, which is similar to Pele joining the Cosmos, which, I mean, you're Thierry Henry joining the New Jersey.
Wow. Where did you pull that from?
I was living in New York at the time.
Yeah, but I'm still impressed you know who Thierry Henry is.
I know who Thierry Henry is. And I know that Rooney made it as well at some point. I think he left like a year ago, right?
Right, and then he was the coach of DC United, and now he's in coaching, I think, Derby in the English Championship League.
So when we first discussed this, and I said, Messi may have the same impact that said a Pele did, and you shook your head and you were like, no, that's not going to be the same. And then we went to Beckham, and your response was, yeah, I think it's similar to Beckham. Are you still of the same opinion? Now that it's here, now that it's happening?
Well, I guess the question is, the reason it's not comparable to Pele is because in a lot of ways it made the NASL, which was the National North American Soccer League, legitimate, which it really wasn't before. The MLS is legitimate. It's just a second-tier legitimate league or a third-tier legitimate league. I don't know if Messi changes that. Now, what Messi does bring, it brings eyeballs from around the world, which Beckham did peripherally. But it brings more. Beckham is a celebrity as opposed to Messi as a soccer player. Two very different things. Messi going to Miami, having all of South America, which leads to a South America. Leads to really branding in South America, where he is the most beloved, pretty much the most beloved athlete in the history of Argentina. I'm assuming above Maradona, although I prefer Manu Ginobili personally, but neither here nor there. He's past his prime, but he's not past his prime like Beckham, I think, was past his prime.
Well, that was
like Rooney was past his prime.
Well, Seth, that was going to be your next question. So Messi's what, 38, 37?
Something like that.
Somewhere in there. Do you ever envision a player coming over that's actually in his prime?
No, because you don't get paid enough to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
I mean, forgetting even, you have the EPL, a guy like Harry Kane, who's may leave Tottenham, may not leave Tottenham. His team wants 125 million pounds to sell him. If you're going to be sold for that, what do you think you're going to request for income purposes? And if you're really going someplace straight for the money, let's be honest, unless you're a Jew, you could go to Saudi Arabia. I mean, they supposedly offered almost, was it $1 billion to Messi for 3 years? Some ridiculous number. But, he didn't, he chose not to go there in regards to just would prefer to live in Miami, and he's made enough money and he'll have ownership, and that's sufficient for him. But you're seeing a lot of not the top talent, but kind of a little bit past their prime talent going to Saudi Arabia. Jordan Henderson from Liverpool, N'Golo Kante from Chelsea, Riyad Mahrez from Man City, Cristiano Ronaldo, who was obviously at one point a true talent, and he was just he's well past his prime. But the money that they're offering is overwhelming because that's where Saudi Arabia is trying to gain legitimacy in the sports world through soccer and golf. And at this point, we'll see where they go going forward, and that's probably a discussion for where we are in 2025.
That's right.
But the United, it's never going to be, soccer is never going to be a top 2 or 3 sport in the U.S. It's a place for athletes to kind of go enjoy themselves in more of the twilight of their career and live a good life and go from there.
Well, I mean, look, the salaries have certainly increased than when they started, right? From where MLS originally started, you were getting $80,000. I remember $40,000 and $80,000, and then Henry signed for like $1 million because he was like the exception to the rule at the time. Mm-hmm. And then Beckham signed for like $3 million, and he was the exception to the rule, but he got ownership. And now you have you have Messi that is partnering with Adidas and partnering with Apple, and they're making it work, right, to bring him. You don't see an instance in which, even in 5 years, where somebody in his prime does what Messi did and just play here. It's the competitive juices more than it is anything else, I hear.
Yes. I mean, if you want to play in a top tier, if you want to be considered the best in the world, you want to win the Ballon d'Or, you're going to play in Spain or England or France or Italy or Germany. Or, I mean, I don't know the South American leagues as well, but I'm assuming Brazil and Argentina. You're not going to play in Saudi Arabia.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So in 5 years, do you see Saudi Arabia as a legitimate league for
potentially? Because at some point, the money is going to be just too big for a superstar in his prime to turn down. They're going to offer. I mean, look, I don't know who it's going to be, but maybe they offer Harry Kane $100 million, $120 million for a year. Mm-hmm. Tax free,
right? Well, yeah,
of course. How does any other country in the world match that? Now, again, you also have to be okay with living in Saudi Arabia.
Yep,
and with the ramifications and the PR killing that you're going
that goes along with it, right? I mean, it's kind of like I'm only going to compare it to the Yankees of the 1980s because that's the only way that you could, or even the Redskins, right? Or sorry, Commanders, right? You're going to, but you're getting paid X amount more than you would anywhere else, and you know it going in. The Danny Tartabull. I always come back to Danny Tartabull, right? Where
the Live Tour.
Sure. Yeah. But the Live Tour, you're not exactly living in Saudi Arabia, right? So you are actually moving around. When you played for the Yankees in the 80s, you knew you were getting into Steinbrenner. Like that was just it, right? And if you're Carson, I'm not saying Carson Wentz had any other choice, but the fact is if Carson Wentz goes to the Commanders, he knows he's dealing with Daniel Snyder. Like that's it. And that's where you go with this. And so you are look, there's always a price to be paid one way or another. And you're going to see it with Shohei Ohtani coming up in free agency in a couple of months, in which do you want to, let's say the Angels offer the most money. Well, if the Angels offer the most money, we know what the Angels bring, right? As opposed to, hey, you're earning $50 million with the Angels, but you can earn, let's say, $35 million with the Tampa Bay Rays, and you know you're going to contend every year. Because
plus also, if you're in Florida, you're not paying state tax.
I don't really think he cares.
Like, no, I don't either. He doesn't. I mean, again, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
The guy's a non-resident anyway. It doesn't really matter. I mean,
well, it does coming from the CPA of the group, but the idea being that he's he doesn't strike anyone as the person where the only intent is most money.
No, and we're talking, and we can. This is a great segue to where baseball is going to be in 5 years, and the team. Look, in 5 years, the Mets are going to be the Mets with Steve Cohen and still trying to buy crap up, and maybe they'll win a championship. Maybe they won't. But I will say one thing: within 5 years, the farm system of the Mets will be a lot better because they
couldn't be much worse at this point.
Well, look, they graduated a couple of players, and now
I understand.
and they got Mauricio. But the fact is, look, you and I have discussed this ad nauseum, and I discussed it with a Pittsburgh Pirate fan yesterday. The difference between the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox. Well, it used to be the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Rangers, and let's say Seattle, right? And even the Cubs. The Cubs can do it too. Is the ability to make a mistake.
Yep.
Is the ability to, and Steve Cohen has no problem admitting, I made a mistake. James McCann, I'm going to pay you the entire salary to get rid of this guy just so he's not on my CBA, right? Just so he's not on my tax. And I don't see, of all the sports, I don't see baseball changing. And for that part, I don't see a salary cap ever coming into play for baseball, better or for worse. But that also means, as my Pirate friend said yesterday, you need lightning in the bottle. You need all.
I like that you said your Pirate friend.
Well,
that just sounds funny.
He's a Pirate friend. But look, you need lightning in a bottle, right? You need all your prospects to work out in a 2 to 3 year period because you're going to lose most of them.
Right. It's the Cincinnati Reds syndrome right now.
Yep.
Is you have an enormous amount of talent that is young between India and Matt, I forget his last name, and De La Cruz.
Look at you with Jonathan India. Congratulations.
Did he win the Rookie of the Year last year?
He did, but I am impressed. And Matt McClain is the shortstop. And they just called up Andy De La Cruz. And they have the first base, third baseman, and they got Spencer. I mean, they have too many players for not enough positions on that team because Joey Votto is still around and for in his last year. So in 5 years, how does baseball change for you?
For me?
How does baseball change? How do you see baseball? Like the pitch clock is certainly. Do you think that the pitch clock shortening the games, which it has substantially shortened the games, and look, to the detriment of Max Scherzer and to Justin Verlander, but probably to the betterment of most casual fans. It is a 2 hour and 15-minute game. You're never going to make baseball the most popular sport in America again. It's not going to happen, ever. No. But can you stem the tide at this point? Can you stop the losses?
It depends who you bring in over the next couple years. You have pretty much, it's an old white person sport.
With Shohei Ohtani.
I mean, this has been talked about from Torrey Hunter to Doug Glanville to Mookie Betts. There's never been a real major African American following over the last 15 to 20 years, as far as I can tell. It's certainly diminished. And I think, I don't know if it's a racial component. I mean, it's probably not. It's more of it's a demographic. It is not a popular sport under the age of 45. Hasn't been for years. I don't know if there's a revolutionary talent that can change that, like a Griffey did to a degree, or if there's, in the 90s when it started to diminish because of the strike season and whenever, you had two things that kind of brought it back. You had Ripken and you had the McGuire Sosa run. Mm-hmm. And I don't see those things occurring. Now, I'm also, to be fair, I'm not really a baseball apologist. I think the owners are arrogant. I think, as you said, when you know intuitively that 15 to 18 teams have no chance to win a championship, and I realize that's in most sports, or at least, but because there's no hard cap, you're always going to have a $200 million discrepancy in salary or different delta in salary. How are you going to make it interesting?
Well,
Look, the Reds are a great story this year. The Pirates are a good story this year. Arizona is a good story this year. The Yankees are a bloodbath. The Mets are a bloodbath.
but Seth, the best story out there, or one of the best stories, is a team with a $60 million payroll that could easily afford a $150 million payroll in Baltimore. And what baseball, if they're ever going to have something, look, these owners, you're right. You hate it. In baseball more than anything else, you hate owners. You hate owners because you have very, very rich people that won't spend money. And the reason for that is because there's no minimum cap, not necessarily a maximum cap. I think if you had a minimum cap, Seth, you'd get a whole lot further of a following. To Seth's point, in 1947, when obviously Jackie Robinson, there were 0.9% African Americans. We know that obviously would have been different. In 1976, the year Seth and I were born, 18% were African Americans. Let's go to 1994, the strike year, okay? 17.2% were African Americans, 65% were white, and 17.8% were Latino. So a good disparity. Yeah. So now you go to 2005. 61% white, 9% black, 28% Latino, which is a little surprising to me. And this year, this year I had it before. This year there are 6.2% of players are African American. 6.2, down from a high of almost 20 in the 70s. And look, a lot of that has to do with parents, right? Inner city parents, and baseball is an expensive sport. I mean, all you need for basketball is a basketball. All you need for soccer is a soccer ball. And all you need for football is a football. Baseball, you need cleats, you need a helmet, you need an individual helmet, as I'm aware now from my brother, that his kids need individual helmets. You don't share helmets anymore. You don't share bats anymore. I'm not sure if that's a germ thing or that's a COVID thing, but that certainly is no longer. Look, I think you're right. Baseball will stay where baseball is. I think you'll get a little bit more of a following due to the advancement and the fact that it's not a 3-hour game. It's not a 3.5-hour game. It's not a 4-hour game. I think you're going to see in the playoffs a little bit more attention paid because it's not going to go till 1 o'clock in the morning. We're not going to see the Aaron Boone 1 o'clock in the morning games.
Number one, do you think they remain? Do you think that? I mean, there's been a couple rules, which I think. I mean, I like the pitch clock. There's been a couple rules I don't like. What is it? The guy starting on second and 10 and 10.
That rule. I hate it.
Penalty kicks. It's ridiculous.
I hate it. It reminds me of T-ball. Let's just go play T-ball. But Seth, that's going to stay because the players don't want to be playing 18 inning games. And Major League Baseball doesn't want to run out of players. So they want to incentivize the fact that the games, by running out of players, I mean, if it goes 18 innings, you're going to run out of pitchers. They don't want that. And with I thought the minimum 3 batter rule would certainly help. And I think that stays, by the way. No question, the minimum 3.
How about the shift? Yeah,
the shift will absolutely stay. And I think it's great. Look, I understand you have to strategize around the shift, but it's just not fun to see a lefty hit into a ground ball shift every single play. It's not entertaining. Last year was not an entertaining year. to watch baseball. It just wasn't. Look, unfortunately, we both know the DH rule is here to stay. I cannot stand it, but I can't stand it, but I do understand it. I understand why it's there. You don't see pitchers hurt. You don't see pitchers coming out of games as much anymore, but I think that limits the strategy as well.
Of course it does.
Yeah, I think baseball stays where baseball is. I don't think they gain too many fans, but I don't think they lose too many fans either. I think they.
Are you concerned about the average population of the fan getting older and older?
No, because I think let's take Mike Nuremberg, for example, right? Mike Nuremberg, a fan of the pod, if you will. Look, we see him on Facebook all the time, taking his son to Yankee games, right? And my brother takes his son to minor league baseball games. I think you are going to keep, if you are a baseball fan, your son or daughter inherently, I believe, will become one. Even if it's a random fan, right? A general fan, not a super fan. I don't see that as a decrease. What I would and the true test of this, Seth, will be in the playoffs. Because when games start at 8:00 at night, now they will be over by 11. So kids can stay awake for the games.
Or they can do one-off stay up as opposed to 12:30, 1 o'clock where you just can't.
Well, and I think that was something that the NFL decided, right, when they moved the Monday Night Football game earlier, right, by an hour, is realizing that same thing. Okay, so if you had to pick a team, say in 3 years, if you're going to pick a team today that you think in 3 years will be still or the best team in baseball, what would that be?
Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't have Atlanta is far and beyond.
Yep, the best organization in baseball.
Them and Tampa Bay. I am, and the Dodgers.
Right. The only reason I Tampa Bay would have been my number 2. The only reason I hesitate is because of salary restrictions.
Sure.
They often let or trade, some of their players. Atlanta has all these guys signed for 5-6 years.
It's insane how they it's like they did like a Harry Potter wand thing and got Ozzie Abeles to sign for 7 years and $35 million. And you're kind of like, that's an all-star second baseman signing for $5 million a year. Like you're kind of, and everywhere else you're looking and you're like, second baseman all-star is getting $20 million. What did they put in the water? And trust me, it's not any water I'm drinking here in Atlanta, but it's definitely something. All right. Moving on to the NBA. I was listening to the creator of I listened to the Lowe Post, the Zach Lowe podcast, which Zach Lowe is tremendous. And they had on the guy that created this in-season tournament, right? And they had some of the things, and they said, Zach asked him, give me some of the most wild ideas you've heard, like to change the game. One is expanding the court to 60 feet because of the way athletes are. One was to raise.
How wide is the court now?
50 okay. feet. So giving another 10 feet, right? And obviously you're going to have stadium concerns with that, where stadiums are not built for an extra 10 feet on each side. But
it's not an extra 10 feet on both sides. It's an extra 5 feet on both sides.
Sorry, an extra 5, whatever the amount is. And if you make it wider, you probably have to make it longer too. I mean, there's other things that go in there. One was, what was it? I don't remember all. Some of them were based on lottery. Some of them were based on salary caps. Some of them, and there were some really wild ideas. I remember shaking my head at some of them. I'm not sure the NBA needs to change. I'm not sure that there's too much in there. Now, you're going to see Victor Wembanyama and see what happens. But I don't look. To me, he's no different than Shaq. He's no different than any other Tim Duncan, a highly regarded number 1 pick, that Greg Oden, that we have to see what happens with him. I don't think he changed. Look, he may change the game. He may. But truth be told, I think he's just going to nestle himself back in like an Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's hard. First of all, it's very difficult to imagine how a game is revolutionized until you see it happen.
Sure.
Nobody knew what LeBron was until they saw LeBron. Like nobody knew that kind of athlete exists. Now, to be fair, there is no athlete that exists like LeBron. But you have the 7-footer who shoots 3-pointers. That was Nowitzki started that. You have the guy shooting 35-footers that Curry and Lillard started. There's going to be I don't know what the next revolutionary change is. I have no clue. I have no idea who it could be. He's not there yet. And I can't picture what it could be based on what basketball is at this point. I don't from the pro game. No, I don't think the pro game is going to change very much for better or for worse. I mean, look, the players are amazing. Is the game that much fun? It's a lot of one-on-one ball.
The funny thing is, Seth, I like the NBA game. I do. I find it enjoyable. Maybe it's only certain teams that I find enjoyable to watch. But look, I enjoyed watching the Knicks last year. I really did. I enjoyed obviously we all enjoy watching Golden State because that's like watching the Harlem Globetrotters, right? Just passing all the time. They play more of a fundamental game than anybody else. Now, here's something. Look, we saw Draymond Green revolutionize the game, right? We saw the 6'8" center. That's a passer. That's not back there. Did the Golden State Warriors have a post-up player in the last 10 years worth anything?
No.
Right. So in that respect, it's not only the three-pointer that revolutionized the game with the Golden State Warriors. It's the fact that they totally eliminated the post. There was none.
Yeah, but to be fair, I'm not sure if that's an anomaly or not.
Well, that's my question. Is that an anomaly? Because you saw this year, obviously, the NBA Finals were won with a guy that had a post game.
And you do have big guys. Embiid can play post. Gobert, although not a great offensive weapon, is a post player. Jokic is just, he is what he is. I think there should be, look, Golden State also had possibly the two greatest shooters of all, two of the five greatest shooters of all time.
Yep.
And it's such sensational supporting staff, supporting players that it could kind of dictate that. Now, and also, to be fair, what post players, Golden State's beaten the Celtics, they beat Cleveland. I'm forgetting who else they beat. Maybe there is no one else. Maybe it is just Cleveland. But what great post players did they play against?
No, I agree with you. Like maybe they came in at the right time, right?
I mean,
so I want to give you a little. So here's how things can change 5-6 years later. So we're talking about a 3 to 5 year period, right? Listen to this. Listen to the amount of talent on this team. Okay. And this is a team from way back. Okay. Not way back, but back enough. 2016, 2017, 2018. So where they are today, all these players were on the exact same team. And I'm going to go in reverse alphabetical order. Ivica Zubac, starting center for the Clippers. Julius Randle, third team All NBA. Gary Payton II.
Nice role play. Good seventh man.
Larry Nance Jr.
Good seventh man.
Brook Lopez.
Starting center on a championship team.
Kyle Kuzma just earned $30 million in the contract. Brandon Ingram just earned $30 million in a contract. Josh Hart just earned $20 million in a contract. Jordan Clarkson just earned $20 million in the contract. Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball. That was all one team. That team. What's that?
Sorry, continue.
Oh, no, that's the 2017
the Lakers.
2018 Lakers. Right.
Yeah.
The amount of talent on that team is astonishing 6 years later and never realized in LA. So what I'm trying to say is we may have a team out there today that looks like that because at the time we didn't think that that team was worth anything because that team actually finished 11th in the NBA, 35-47, and may have had more talent than you can say any team in the NBA today has. Yay, Carly. But I think when you look 3-4 years down the road, you look at these young teams, and that's what I was trying to get at. And there's a great article by John Hollinger, right? That sparked me looking up the Oklahoma City Thunder draft picks over the next 1,000 years, right? I mean, it's insane how many future draft picks they have. They have 4 next year, 4 firsts. Yeah, they have 4 firsts. Like, they have their own. Houston, not going to be very good. Clippers, may or may not be good. Utah, may or may not be good, right? I mean, they have 3 in 2025. And they have 6. No, hold on.
6?
No. 3 in 20. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4 in 2025. So they have 4 in 2024 and 4 in 2025. They have 3 seconds in 2025. They have 3 more firsts in 2026 and 2 in 2027. And finally, it comes down to 1 after that. My question to you, and I think this is the question that everybody's wondering, is who's the big fish, right? There's got to be a guy because you're not going to be able, and kudos to Sam Presti, because when he sees he doesn't like it, he just punts it to the next year, right? He trades his first round pick and gets another one 2 years down the road. He just punts it. This reminds me very much of the Celtics in the 2000s, where Danny Ainge accumulated all those draft picks, right, and had Joe Forte and had Al Jefferson, right?
Al Jefferson it was way before then.
Well, Al Jefferson was traded. Al Jefferson was traded for Kevin Garnett.
Right.
But that was the big fish.
Yes, but I don't know if he was originally a Celtic. I thought he was originally a Pacer.
No, John.
Was he originally a Celtic?
Al Jefferson, I believe, and here's my guess. He was drafted 18th overall.
I was going to say 17th.
Let's see who's right. I'm actually curious about this. 15th overall to the Celtics in the 2004 draft. Kendrick Perkins.
Touche.
Yeah. But so who's the fish? Who are the guys that are going to be traded? And is it Embiid? Because is Embiid even going to go to Oklahoma City, right? Then you have that issue as well. But the more picks you have, the more chances you have to hit. And that's what Danny Ainge always believed. Look, Danny Ainge was not the best drafter, but he definitely accumulated the most shots. And that's what Belichick believes, right? Is the most shots that you have, the more shots you have, the better chance you have to pick a winner. That sounds nasty. Pick a winner. But you have no clue what pick a winner means. Okay, anyway. Jim Boeheim picks a winner every game. No idea still? He picks a winner every game. Still no. Oh. Yeah, he picks a winner. Exactly. So anyway, if you had to guess in the next 5 years, where are we looking for NBA championships? Are we looking in Oklahoma City? Are we looking? I mean, I can't imagine Golden State's going to keep this up in 5 years. No. Like, that's going to be over.
No. I think you're looking in the West. Look, I agree. I think Oklahoma City is going to make a run at. I don't know who it is. I mean, but when you have 13 first round picks in 4 years, you're not going to be afraid to throw 4 of them in Chet Holmgren at Philly for Embiid. You're not going to be afraid to throw 3 of them. And I'm not saying for this guy specifically, but 3 of them at a guy like a Paul George at that, who's younger in his career. I can, look, Milwaukee will be old. Boston, who the heck knows? I mean, Boston's the most talented team, and I don't know how they going forward with Brown making $50 million, Tatum making $50 million, Porzingis making $30 million. I just don't see the numbers. I look at a team, that has a lot of young talent, but can Portland finally do something if Scoot's as good as everyone thinks he's going to be? With him and Sharp and Simons, that's some nice young talent. Indiana with your favorite point guard and whoever else they can bring in when they eventually lose Turner. I don't know. I don't know what the answer. I don't know what the answer is. But in 3 or 4 years, the Lakers are old. LeBron is gone. Whether he's playing with Bronny or retired, I mean, look, I thought the announcement on the ESPYs, I didn't see it, but I think everyone assumes that he will be staying so he can hopefully play with his son at some point, which would be pretty amazing.
He's going to Oklahoma City because they own the whole draft next year. I mean, if I were them, I'd take Bronny just to have LeBron play for a year.
Well, if you can do that, and then guess what? If you have Bronny, LeBron, Shai Gilgeous, you become very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. In 3 years, Doncic is probably gone from Dallas.
So let me go through this. I'm going to give you a player. You tell me if he's going to stay in 3 years. In 3 years, will he still be on that team?
Okay.
Jason Tatum.
Yes.
Jaylen Brown.
No.
Jalen Brunson.
Yes.
Joel Embiid.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Let's move to the West. Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant.
No.
3 years? He's got a 4-year deal.
He's got 3 years left on his contract. Yeah, he'll probably still be there.
Okay. DeAndre Ayton.
No.
Won't even be there. Zion Williamson.
No.
Where will Zion be? See, now there's a player I can see Oklahoma City saying, you know what? I'm going to put my Ducks in there. Like that's a player that, yes, it may work out, and yes, it may not work out, but I got enough bullets in my gun that I can try it. There are not many teams, and I think it was Brian Windhorst, I don't remember who said it, or Larry Nance, where they said, the problem with Zion is if you trade him, he becomes what he should become. Then you become the GM that traded away one of the top 5 players in the NBA. And if you don't trade him, then you have respectability, or at least you have cover in the fact that it wasn't your fault. Zion just never got healthy.
Yeah. It's why I never worked at Goldman Sachs.
Right. Because you can never
justify any hiring from Harvard, even if it doesn't work out. Hiring someone from Maryland you're on your own.
Correct. Okay. So let me keep going. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
He's got 4 years left. They're not trading him.
Okay.
They're building around him.
John Morant. Will John Morant be in the NBA in 3 years? That's
Yeah, I think he'll get his crap together. I don't think they're going to trade him.
okay.
I still think they see him as a linchpin to a championship caliber team.
Here's the biggest one. Giannis.
No, I think Giannis is gone. Because I think the team Holiday is a free agent after next year, I believe.
Yep. Middleton's got 3 years.
Middleton signs a 3 year, but I think the third year may be voidable. And at that point, your team just gets old. And talk about throw your bullets right there. I mean, I don't even know what you offer for Giannis.
Well, here's the thing. If you're Milwaukee and you're staring down the fact that he may leave, doesn't matter what you throw for Giannis. Because is something that, especially if it's picks, so let's take Oklahoma City, right? In a couple of years, Davis Bertrand will be off that cap, right? They have a couple of guys that are coming off that cap. And yes, Alexander will ascend and have the $30 million salary, but they might, if the cap goes up, be able to bring Giannis in with cap space. It's possible. I'm not saying they will, but it's possible to do that. If it's possible to do that and they don't have to get off any big contracts, and you're Oklahoma City, all you got to do is give them picks.
Yeah.
Because if I'm correct, and I'm just doing this from memory, Milwaukee cannot trade a pick until 2030. I love how we're talking about 2030 in some of these, right? That's 7 years down the road. But that also makes you understand that like 5 teams control half the picks in the NBA.
Right. We know, but we've known this.
Right. And your Nets are one of them. So is Mikal Bridges on this team in 3 years?
Yes. If they're not going to trade him for 4 first-round picks now, what the hell are they going to trade him for when he's better?
Is Bam Adebayo on Miami? He's not a superstar. He's earning superstar money.
I guess so. The problem is he can't be a number one on a team that wins a title. He's not that guy.
Yep.
And by that point, Butler's old and Lillard's old, assuming Lillard gets over there.
Look, the best comparison for me in Bosch is one of the guys that he replaced, and that's Chris. It's Chris Bosch.
Yeah,
like he and Chris Bosch are perfect. Hi, Carl.
How do you even know?
Oh, the wink had nothing to do with it.
It was either winking at you or I was winking at Sean.
You right, and you don't wink at your kids, not yet. So that may.
No, my kids aren't here, so.
Oh, well, that would do it too.
I just wanted to say 2 things. So.
Okay.
Quickly, what's up?
So NFL.
Yes.
All right, I put him on mute. So let me know when you're done. Okay. So for the NFL, will the NFL? I'm not sure I see any big changes to the NFL. I see safety changes. Obviously, I think we're going to see bigger helmets. I think we're going to see better helmets. I think everybody's going to start wearing those like quarterback helmets at some point. And everybody's going to look like Kazoo from the Flintstones. But that's...
Who the heck is Kazoo from the Flintstones?
You really don't remember Kazoo?
No, which one was Kazoo?
Hold on, I think it's Kazoo. No, Gazoo. Really?
When do you think the last time I watched? Oh, okay.
You know Gazoo?
I know who it is. I just looked it up. I didn't remember his name.
Well, and this is where my stupid memory comes in. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me present Kazoo. Hold on. Nope. Where is it? Oh, here it is. So this is who I'm referring to being Kazoo. Hello, Dum Dum.
Hello.
Hello, Dum Dum. So the fact is, I think you're definitely going to see bigger helmets. No question about it. As far as Do you think we'll ever see a bigger field?
No,
Because
I don't think it would be the worst
stadiums?
idea. I don't think it would be the worst idea in the world, but I don't. Um, again, I think that would be pretty difficult. Well, it wouldn't be that difficult because you're literally you have massive sidelines. So, but I think from a length standpoint, in some regards, you may not be able to do it. I don't know. Never really considered it for football.
I think width would actually be more advantageous than
Do
length.
do they thin out the ghost? Do they make the goalposts less wide?
No, I think that's like their least worry at
Well,
this.
that's easy.
Right.
When you have kickers kicking 85, 90%, who can now kick 65 yards.
That's true. Well, and so the kickoff will be gone, right? The kickoff will be totally gone in 3
Most
years.
likely.
Okay. Will extra points be gone in 3 years?
No, I don't. There's not that many injuries off of that.
No, but I think it's just a wasted opportunity.
No, because it allows you to do the 2-point conversion, which is
Right. So I think you'll be forced to do 2-point conversions. I think you'll take out the extra point and make the 2-point conversion the solid. That's what you have to do. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I think that might be something that the NFL would look into. I think overtime will start being like college. I think you're going to have start at the 35 and do that. Because I think what's happening right now is that you're never going to get a fair overtime rule the way that it works right now. And as much as I don't like 75 to 73 games in college, at least it's fair. Everybody starts at the same place.
Yep.
Everybody has the same chance. And to your point, at that juncture, will you have to kick field goals? Sure. Will there have to be very long field goals? Perhaps. So take away all these sports. Where are we going to see expansion? Where are teams going to relocate? So we already know that the A's are moving to Vegas, which against everybody's better judgment, except for Las Vegas, they're moving to Vegas. Where I see baseball expanding by 2. I'm not sure when. It may be in 5 years. It may be in 10 years, but I think.
Are you thinking Mexico City?
I'm thinking Nashville for 1.
And Portland maybe for the other, if not, if you're going to stay in.
If you can't. So I think Mexico City is going to be a really hard lift. And part of the reason is the air quality, the fact that it's at an elevation that will kill even Coors Field. Like every you'd have to have Polo Grounds numbers, 512 feet to center field for a place in Mexico City. And I think you would have the same problem in a different respect than you do with London. Nobody's going to want to live there. I mean, for London, it's nobody wants to live there because of the travel when it comes to football. Nobody's going to want to, unless you had 4 teams in Europe, you would have back and forth transatlantic flights all the time. But in Mexico City, quite frankly, who's going to want to live there? Who's going to want to endure that? And is baseball willing to have basically, now granted they have charter flights, but are you going to deal with customs every day? Because that's what you'd be doing.
Well, you're dealing with that with Toronto.
That's true. But there aren't.
Now, would you go back to Montreal?
I would love for them to go back to Montreal. Like that would be. I don't like the fact that they would do half Montreal and half Tampa Bay. I thought that was the stupidest idea of all time. But look, if Montreal can, if Canada can get more baseball, I think that would be a positive. However, you have to flip it. And look, please bring back those uniforms. The Montreal uniforms were one of my favorite uniforms, and the hat was tremendous. I love the M. I think I own a hat like that. I think you got me.
Have you ever been to Montreal?
I have not. I have thought about going this winter.
It's a great town.
It's on the list. It's definitely on the list. So that's what I see for baseball. Do you see expansion in football?
The next 3 years?
3 to 5.
No.
Do you see any relocations in football?
I think that's always hard to gauge, but not really. Um, because towns that I wouldn't think would be a great, well, I don't think Buffalo's not going anywhere at this
Well,
point.
they just signed a new stadium.
That's
So
what I said. Buffalo's not going anywhere. Jacksonville, I mean, I'm thinking about towns which it would be kind of logical. Jacksonville has a now that they're relevant, has a good, has a pretty good metropolitan area, and they're a team that's it's incentivized to kind of stay. Cincy would have been a team I would have thought about. That's not going anywhere, because of the last 5 years. I don't think so, but it's incredibly hard to guess that 3 years in advance.
I would agree. I think you're going to have some. Look, Buffalo shored up their situation. Jacksonville is what Jacksonville is. Tampa's not moving. Miami's not. Like, I think it's easier to say teams that are not moving than teams that have the potential to move. And look, the LA teams aren't moving. Arizona's not moving, right? Dallas is certainly not moving. Houston's not moving. Like, you can put Seattle's not. Yeah. Seattle would be the only one. And hear me out. It's about ownership, right? Is ownership going to change? Seattle's ownership will change in the next 3 to 5 years, right? Tennessee's ownership probably will change in the next 3 to 5 years with the Strokes. It's a matter of ownership and right now Tennessee is looking for a new stadium, and will they get their new stadium? And yes, their stadium's only 20 years old, but they want a new stadium, right? Obviously the Crafts are not moving. If I was going to put one team that would move, it's the Commanders, but they're going to move to downtown.
But they're going to stay in the metropolitan area, so it doesn't count. Yes, I had already thought of that,
and I love it. Right, I would actually go to a game if it was in downtown DC. I'd actually love to.
Yeah, I mean, how much should we enjoy the Georgia Dome from a location standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, and the Falcons aren't going anywhere. Not with that fan base. Look, the NHL, you always have the fact that until Arizona settles what they're doing, they are always.
Is there a chance they contract?
No, you will never get contraction talk again in any sport. You just won't. They're all making money.
Arizona?
Everybody's making money.
Does Arizona even have a home stadium at this point?
Yeah, it's called the Mullet Arena.
Isn't that where Arizona State plays?
Yes, 5,000 people. And the tickets are $300 a pop.
Does anyone go?
Yes, it's filled every night because there's only 5,000 seats. The thing is, Seth, the difference between 1994 and today, very simple. In 1994, Major League Baseball and NHL hockey got the majority of their revenue from putting people in the seats. And today, that is no longer the case.
Sure.
So there was a report at one point, and I did not verify this report at all. So I don't know if it's true or not. But the report was Major League Baseball. It was right before COVID. And this is why they continued baseball during COVID. We can make more money with nobody in the stands without employing all the people to man the stadium than we would if we just put it on TV.
So are you saying they made more money during COVID than not during COVID?
No, they made more money. Well, the point was if they were going to put people in the seats, they would only be limited to like 5,000, 6,000 people. And they were saying to man the stadium would have cost more than the revenue coming in from those 5,000 people. So it would have been easier to not have any people in the stadium, which is what eventually they did, than to put the 5,000 people at 6 feet apart. Because all their revenue is coming from TV. Or the majority of the revenue is coming from TV. Okay. 5 minutes left. This is a great show. Do you have anything, sir?
I don't.
You don't have anything? Wow, nothing?
Oh, actually, okay. You know what? I will say one thing quickly. It looks like we're back to having a big two in tennis.
Yep.
Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, Carlos Alcaraz. I mean,
Alcatraz.
19 years old to beat the 4-time champion Djokovic at Wimbledon at the center, on center court in the finals. And what he plays is what's his name said it best. Djokovic said, but he plays a game that he hasn't seen because literally it's a combination of Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic. And what I enjoy is he's finally someone who comes to net.
Yep.
Which has been something that's been missing really over the last 15 years because everyone just whacks the ball. And hopefully that'll kind of bring that back a little bit because it's an enjoyable, it's a way you should play. But props to him, and the US Open should be fun. Seeing them go for the number 1 ranking at the end of the year.
All right, so here we go. From tennis, I will go to soccer. Yes, soccer. Her wife retired last year in Sue Bird. And congratulations, Megan Rapinoe, who will be retiring after this year's World Cup. She is the face of U.S. soccer for women right now. And look, the hope is that somebody else comes to the forefront during the World Cup. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but the hope is.
I don't think she's the face for women. I think she's the face of U.S. soccer, period.
Well, okay. Well, she's certainly the face of women's soccer. She
may
Alex
Morgan too. Yeah.
But the fact is, her and Sue Bird have made women's sports not only more enjoyable, but more public facing. And for that, her career is beyond reproach in soccer. Her and Mia Hamm, I think, are probably the 2 best women's U.S. soccer players of all time.
I don't think so, but I think she's the most influential. I think her influence really off of the field has been so incredibly significant.
I agree. All right. For Seth Kamens, this is Sean Palmer, Seth and Sean Sports, and we'll talk to you guys next week. This was great. Have a good one, everyone.
Happy birthday, Jake.
Happy birthday, Jake.